Hi, welcome to this reading. I am recording on May 4th, 2024. I have hesitated to get back to recording messages in the last couple of weeks since the eclipse season began because I found myself in deep processing and I was unable to really externalize anything. Everything was very internal. I felt the burgeoning crisis within an inner tower that seemed to indicate a, a necessity of analysis of flow and what flow means and what flow doesn't mean and how flow is lacking and where flow comes naturally. And this past week, as we experienced quite a few major energetic shifts, I felt very uneasy. I felt deeply disturbed in my energy. Venus was squaring Pluto. Mars moved into Aries, and Pluto went retrograde. And all of these aspects felt like an attack. Uh, I've been holding it together for a while because I've been steeped in subconscious poverty consciousness um, around what I'm doing with my life, how I manifest, and I've been on sabbatical for what's now an extended period of time and no longer necessarily consciously voluntary. And I have been finding it impossible to manifest anything in the outside world. And because of my inner child injuries that I am still tending to, I shut down under those circumstances when I'm not manifesting externally in a material realm. The spiritual aspects or the creative aspects of me um, become tedious. They lack any fire. They become perfunctory, necessary, but not imbued with any spirit. And so this week, the crisis came, the inner tower, the forced confrontation. And I fit in that energy as I speak to you right now. It's very bizarre. It's like all over the map. One minute I feel somewhat at peace, then I plunge into discomfort and I have no idea where it's coming from. And then I realize that there's all this anxiety that's kind of building up in my solar plexus. Can't really make it past the solar plexus chakra to the heart or to the throat or beyond for release. It's just in those lower chakras, like turning about. Um, and it's messy. It's messy, it's uncomfortable. There are profound truths being revealed. There is a sense of having to be radically honest and with myself, that is. And of course, everything that I'm saying right now is an explanation for the collective of how this might have shown up in your life. Sorry, I'm very itchy right now, which means that I am probably in a good place to be doing this reading. The moon is in Pisces when I record this, and as I am a Pisces moon, it's always when I am most receptive and open. So this is a huge release for me. So thank you for being a part of this with me, because I was in deep, deep need of connecting externally with spirit, because I do a lot of work personally. I mean, I have been really doing a lot of work, but as I say, it can become very intellectual. It can become very removed from integration and assimilation, because I find myself at war with my mind. So um, that is the general energy that we're coming out of and that we're still in. But I sense that we are moving into uh, clearer times. And I would say that by the time we have a new moon coming up in a couple of days, um, remember to try to get as much clarity as you can, and set your intentions. This is a very important new moon, one that requires ceremony, and whatever that means to you. That can be meditation, that can be just an intentional practice of some kind of um, way of showing up and honoring yourself and the questions that you have, and the needs that you have for um, emancipation. Strong word, right? But yeah, that's really what it all comes down to, because there is infinite abundance for us, but if we don't get out of our own way, there's nowhere for all that chi and that inner um, love and creativity to really manifest. And of course, as a prime example of this for you, the internalization of that, the caving into the mind, the inner child, the ego, however you want to look at it, holds us in a negative pattern that Pluto is just not having anymore. So, um, and of course, with that Mars energy moving into Aries, there was a sudden thrust forth of individual uh, clearing. Essentially, I wanted to say flow, but it's like, no, there's so much that needs to be cleared before we can flow, that there's, yeah, it's just going to feel really uncomfortable inside, to have a bunch of pent up Mars in Aries energy. So channel it, try to find that clearing as much as you can, because once you do, I think Mars is going to help us to gain some forward momentum. Um, Anything else? Hmm. No, I think we will just get into. Oh, I do have some notes. Oh, so I wanted to tell you. So I came up. I mean, I say I came up with it. It was something that came to me of how I was going to read. And I've basically, from the Rider Waite deck, I pulled three general energy cards that we'll tap into. I haven't really thought about these cards. I literally pulled them before I hit record and just kind of was like, okay, we'll figure it out as we go. But then from the Dali tarot, I pulled cards corresponding to Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Lilith. And we will um, look at these cards in context of the energy of the planet, and hopefully that will give us a metaphysical view of a whole um, a holistic um, integral view of, you know, as above, so below, the outer solar system, and how those things manifest internally in us and in the way that we manifest in this um, dream that we call life. Um, Primary, what did I write in my notes here? Let me just pull them. Okay. So the mantra, or the, I would call it a mantra for this period ahead, is life is not a performance, life is an experience. We have to think about what that means to us, right? But the questions that came out of that, specifically regarding our inner child work and perhaps the identity crisis that we may be facing right now, because I do think a lot of this points to an identity crisis. Who am I authentically? Only these are questions that only we can answer for ourselves, right? And worth taking the time to sit down and connect with. And I'm going to be doing that myself this weekend. Who am I authentically? What is my intention? What do I value? What do I need? And what have I always wanted to do? And these add up to a primary overall intentional question, which is more a summoning than anything else. What life can I create for myself that is in harmony with my truth, honesty, and integrity? Because I know that we all want to create a new life for ourselves, and the energies are ripe for that. But many of us, my hands up immediately, expect outside circumstances to dictate that. And what we are being forced to do through this Pluto energy, and all of the energy right now, is to find alignment with empowerment and to answer that question from within. And therefore, we're going to have to show up. We're going to have to create something for ourselves. And I have no idea how I'm going to manage to do that. And having been on sabbatical for a long time, you'd have thought that I'd be at a place where I'd be able to answer that question. But no. So I'm down to the crunch and I can figure that out. And it's as inspiring as it can be terrifying. And it really is about my mindset and how I present myself and how receptive I am, and whether or not I can be in faith, or will I fall into a crisis of faith? Uh, because that's all it is when I fall into the fear and the doubt, because I know at the end of the day that I will figure out a solution. And even if it means I have to come up with makeshift ways to survive in the external world, I'll surely figure that out, because I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm still here. And I will say that the Venus Pluto square does bring up a lot of shadow. So I personally have been feeling that, and that comes out for me in feelings of despair. And I can honestly say that I have had some thoughts of, this is very controversial to say on a public channel, but thoughts of suicidal ideation. They're not um, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, so disclaimer, I am speaking purely from my own experience here, and in the hope of it being helpful to somebody else to hear it, rather than it being, advice. But the ideation aspect of that is more aligned with the idea of, I don't want to live or feel the way that I am, or I have been. and I don't know how to change that, as opposed to somebody who really has given a lot of thought to the how, which is a whole other mental state of crisis. And um, when you get to a place of despair, that is uh, more tangible in that way, please, please, please reach out to anyone that you can, for help, just to be heard, just to reconnect, because that's the only thing that you really need to do in that moment, because um, it's just what we have to do. Don't go in, you know. But for me, it's a more existential issue, and I say it as it's the darkest incarnation of the Venus square Pluto energy, combined with real life frustrations, that can put me in a place where, if my inner child takes over, and I don't know how to find a solution, and I can't get out of my own way, and I feel isolated, um and that can add up to real feelings of despair. And I live a pretty sober life nowadays. I don't drink alcohol, and I don't use cannabis anymore. um, and I say that not as an AA statement or an NA statement, because I'm about to betray that, but in my despair, in the last 10 days, I found myself in the position where I allowed myself to drink a um, hard kombucha when I was um, uh, socializing, um, which should be completely inconsequential, but from a physiological perspective, it any form of alcohol that I put in my body now causes immediate, the next day, my brain chemistry gets thrown off, and I become depressive. Um, and um, as a result of that, because that then turned into anxiety, I then allowed myself to have a hit of my weed pen that I haven't touched in a long time. And, in the moment, it was like, oh, great. I feel, I wouldn't say light and fluffy, but I felt a lot of alleviation. Well, the day after that, I had horrible migraines. I felt completely um, unhinged. And that's because there is a lot of, you know, I mean, there's the biological aspect of it, but there's also a lot of energetic shifting taking place. And anything that gets in the way of that, anything that we do to um, step outside of the purity of the frequency, is going to probably cause consequences for those of us who are hypersensitive to that. So all in all, it was a um, really unpleasant week for me. Now, should I get into that right now? I mean, it's okay. I'm going to read it because it's part of what I wanted to share. It's not, let's put it this way. This is a little moment of uh, digression that kind of underscores all of this, because one of the primary issues that Pluto is really helping us to work through is shame. So I had made some notes, um, that I'd like to read from some articles that I was reading. I took them from different places, so I feel a bit embarrassed because I think, was it Paul Lind that wrote this? The last name was Lind, but I don't think Paul Lind sounds like somebody who was on TV in the 60s or something, but who knows? Anyway, this is what it was: shame, wonder, and delight. Even more than the uncovering of weakness or ineptness, exposure of misplaced confidence can be shameful. Happiness, love, anticipation of a response that is not there, something personally momentous received as inconsequential. The greater the expectation, the more acute the shame. Shame is so difficult to bear because it takes us back to the core vulnerabilities of childhood, that tender need for congruence between the world of our imagination and the real world, the longing for a single world that coheres. Basic trust in the personal and in the physical world that surrounds him is the air that the child must breathe if he is to have roots for his own sense of identity and for the related sense of his place in the world. As he gradually differentiates the world of in here from the world of out there, he is constantly testing the coherence, continuity, and dependability of both. Expectation and having expectation met are crucial in developing a sense of coherence in the world and in oneself. Because it is so rooted in our grasp of reality, the shame of having misjudged a situation, misplaced an expectation, miscalculated one's own merits is a profound unmooring of the psyche. What we have thought we could count on in ourselves and what we have thought to be the boundaries and contours of the world turn out suddenly not to be the real outlines of ourselves or of the world or those that others accept. We have become strangers in a world where we thought we were at home. We experience anxiety in becoming aware that we cannot trust our answers to the questions: who am I? Where do I belong? Because personality is rooted in unconscious and unquestioned trust in one's immediate world, experiences that shake trusted anticipations and give rise to doubt may be of lasting importance. Shattering of trust in the dependability of one's immediate world means loss of trust in other persons, who are the transmitters and interpreters of that world. We have relied on the picture of the world they have given us, and it has proven mistaken. We have turned for response in what we thought was a relation of mutuality and have found our expectation misinterpreted or distorted. We have opened ourselves in anticipation of a response that was not forthcoming. With every recurrent violation of trust, we become again children, unsure of ourselves in an alien world. Anyway, I wanted to share that because I think it gives context to what's held us back and what all of this self inner work is about. So maybe there was something in there that spoke to you. Um, I have been falling in love with the White Light Oracle by Alana Fairchild. I have been pulling a card from this daily for myself, along with one Osho card and a tarot card, to to get insight into the energy of the day and what I need to contemplate in my personal realm. And it's been very evocative and helpful for me. And I'd never allowed myself, believe it or not, to have a daily practice other than pulling um, uh, um, Celtic cross readings for myself in times of insecurity, um, looking for answers outside of myself and not really understanding that tarot is really a manifestation of the higher self and our guides, which are our higher self, because God, everything is inside of us, right? And when we feel so profoundly separate and we put all of that outside of ourselves, and I'm not getting into scripture here, but we know that the worship of false idols is considered sinful in the Bible and probably in other um, religious texts. And the truth of that is misinterpreted, because it's basically as if to say, worship this one entity outside of yourself and not any other. But what it really means in my world is that all of those things are inside of you. So as soon as you start worshiping anything outside of you, whether that be a pop star, an actor, a philosopher, your parent, whatever it is, you are losing your connection to yourself, right? Um, because God is in you. So you want the answer, allow yourself to be inspired by what's around you, and the answer will come through your experiences and what you see. But the receptor is in you. So again, I keep digressing, but I think that they're essential side notes um, to give context to how I want you to receive these messages, because they are just triggers of things that are inside of you that you will interpret in your own way and adapt to your life in the way that suits your needs at this very moment in time whenever you receive this. So anyway, our card from the White Light Oracle, Alabaster Tablet of Layla. And I shall read again. I hope you have a nice cup of tea or whatever it is that you want to drink, because this is a kind of a contemplative reading, as you've probably been able to tell. So you are remembering at a soul level. You are tapping into greater awareness and an understanding of your highest life purpose. And it shall become, no, that's not what I'm trying to read. I'll start again because I lost myself. Oops. You are remembering at a soul level. You are tapping into greater awareness, and an understanding of your highest life purpose shall become even clearer to you. This may evoke unsettling changes within you, but that change is necessary for a new way to manifest. You are protected and guided at all times, especially when you feel uncertain about your course. You are truly loved. Words that speak straight to my heart. So hopefully you too. The angel Layla heralds from Talmudic scriptures. Unlike any other angel, she is specifically described as a feminine being. Layla is a reminder that there is a place only the feminine can fill. If we attempt to live out our lives skewed towards the masculine, we will miss out. There is great progress and great value in masculine tendencies towards exploration, adventure, progress, and development. I'm muddling my words here, but the point was there. I think my brain is like, I've been having a really weird week where I keep jumping, like my mind jumps. Like even when I'm reading, it's like I'm reading a word that's further down the page. I mean, who knows? Maybe I have some neurological condition that I'm unaware of, but I don't think so. Maybe it was just that the word progress needed to be relayed twice. However, the feminine tendencies toward compassion, acceptance, kindness, and mercy are a balancing necessity. For humans to survive, these dual wisdoms need to find place and balance and integrate into mature expression in every human heart. The appearance of Layla in a reading suggests the feminine must lead at this time. Allow the way to be shown rather than directing a path based on your current perspective. Layla is a guardian angel watching over all transitions, including the transition of the soul into the embryo during conception and the guiding of the soul out of the body into the realms of light when a physical life draws to a close. Alabaster was lauded by the ancient Egyptians as the guardian stone, which leads the soul towards the light during times of transition. The alabaster tablet of Layla indicates that you are navigating a significant transition. It may be that your outer life is going through change, or it may be that your inner changes are happening within your soul, or both. You may not know how to traverse the shifting inner and outer landscapes, but the oracle advises you that this great angel is guiding you faithfully and effectively. In the Talmud, Layla teaches wisdom to all souls before they are born. She then strikes the upper lip of the infant at the moment of birth, creating the indentation at the upper lip and causing the child to forget everything they know. Maybe that's why I'm always playing with that area. Life is then the journey of reconnection and rediscovery. The alabaster tablet is a crystalline scripture. Its vibration encourages the soul to seek the light and the spiritual path, sparking remembrance of inner truth. It helps us remember the sacred purpose for which we were born. If you feel out of your depth or in need of more information or understanding, this oracle reassures you that it is okay to not know everything right now. The answers you need shall become clear at the right time. All is within. Layla is maternal, protective, and devoted to the human collective. Her name can translate as night. She is able to traverse our own spiritual nights, whether they be, I was having a thought in my head because in Hebrew, it's Lila. Lila, Lila Tov means good night. So I was like, I needed to tell you that I understand some Hebrew. That was really important. But I was putting two and two together, and apparently that's just the kind of slow coach I am, that I need to externalize that to you on video. There you go. I'm trying to be authentic in my humility, which means that I'm open to public humiliation too. I'm showing up in my embarrassing state of rawness from here on out. She is able to traverse our own spiritual nights, whether they be the periods before, after, or during our lives when we are going through a dark night of the soul. Layla is there reminding us that spirit will always show a way, and within us is the wisdom to find it. Crystals are embodied light, and alabaster in particular emanates the white light frequencies. It is highly reputed as a drawing stone, absorbing negative energies and attracting the light of spirit into your heart and life. The alabaster tablet is created from a sheet of alabaster that energetically sheaths the soul, deflecting interference through its invisible protective shield. This oracle encourages you to perform a spiritual cleansing that feels right for you, sealing your work with a protective shield of white light. You can accomplish this by calling upon Alabaster Tablet of Layla, combining the sacred earth medicine of Alabaster and the celestial angelic protection of Layla using the healing process that's described below. And I'll read this for you to do in your own time, because obviously we're not going to be able to do it together. As you relax and become increasingly aware of your breath flowing in and out, allow yourself to be present in this moment. Let your awareness shift from the daily world to the sacred inner world. You can see, sense, visualize, or feel that sacred inner world as you read or listen to the description below. So if you found your breath and you put this on pause, here's the text. There is a point of light within your heart. As you notice that light, it rapidly expands, and you feel a sense of love and recognition. You know, without knowing how you know, that this light is a friend from long, long ago. The light becomes a beautiful feminine angel. Her light shines like a gentle sun, and you feel warmed in her presence. She casts her hand, and a path appears. It is your path, the best way for you to proceed. Notice how you feel about this path. Can you accept it, embrace it, trust it? As you take a step, you realize she is with you. Your heart then remembers she has always been with you and she'll always be with you. Settle into this connection with her for as long as you wish, knowing that even when you return to your daily activities, your remembrance of her being with you during this exercise will have shifted something deeply for you. It will allow you to trust and feel more loved and connected to that which is beautiful and true. To complete this healing process, ground yourself with some gentle movement and plenty of hydration, always. Um, okay, I'm sorry if you were not expecting this unconventional approach to a reading, but it just feels right, and we're just spending some time together, clearing and healing, because that's what it's all about right now. I want you and me to make progress towards um, being able to receive the gifts that are coming. And the only way to do that is to get out of our own way. And it seems that there's just still a buildup that needs to be dissolved. Um, think of it as spiritual Drano that came up in something that I did recently. So it's apt that it would find its way into this reading. Okay, so the three tarot cards that I pulled from the Rider-Waite deck to give us insight into what the overall energy is that we need to confront or integrate. Um, we got the Hierophant, the Fool, and the Nine of Pentacles. And I haven't given myself the opportunity to really give this much thought, as I felt that I would go with an intuitive read rather than trying to put it in context. Um, but what I sense is that our conventions, our constitution, our traditions, our learned values of assimilation have been altered radically and require this full energy of newness. Um, and that the source of this is all the wealth that we have within, that we need to sit with ourselves to figure out what makes us comfortable in ourselves, where we feel confident, where we show up for ourselves. And that is the source of the fool's drive to take the risk, the leap of faith um, into this new construct that we're building for ourselves. I hope that made sense. Um, we did, for the Sun from the Dali deck, also receive the Hierophant. So again, it, the Hierophant is a very dense, energetic card. And it has a very masculine energy to it. And the Sun The sun obviously transcends masculine and feminine. It is all of it. Um, and the way we receive the sun's energy, I think, in our society is traditionally masculine. And this is in need of challenge. Now, I don't know what that means exactly, and I am being directed to pull a clarifier on that to give us a little bit of insight into what it is that we need to break free of in our perception of um oh, uh-oh, the Hierophant. Oh dear. Well, okay. We have this is the Magician in the Thought Tarot deck, and also the Eon and Defeat, which is Five of Swords energy. So the end of the Five of Swords through our own alchemy. Hmm. The wounded energy within us is the divine masculine, obviously. The Five of Swords is when we provide an illusion of egoic victory for ourselves in order for the ego to preserve itself. It's the inner child um, at the helm, um, essentially causing all kinds of outer chaos and turmoil at the expense of our relationships, our opportunities, whatever it may be, because we would rather feel we are in the illusion of comfort in the familiar, even if it is a prison, than experience the flow of the divine feminine through newness and through receptivity. Um, so this is the end of stagnation, essentially. Um, our moon energy, we got the Ace of Cups, the moon being our emotions and being the um, the channel for the divine feminine into the masculine energy. As an Ace of Cups, again, it is about receptivity. It's about being able to perceive that opportunity. Oh my goodness, why do they keep throwing out so many cards? I can't take all of those. Um, just one card, please, for the Ace of Cups. Okay, we got the Prince of Swords, which is the Page of Swords, and so it is about receiving learning. That is about okay, yeah, throwing out throwing out the convention of our way of perceiving our life experience. Basically, I have received this in my own personal reading, not from myself, from a person that I receive readings from, who is an amazing person in so many ways. Um, and the conclusion that came out of this reading that I had this week was that I need to essentially, I've gotten to a point of having a strong understanding of my inner child and of working with my inner child to embrace my inner child, to reintegrate my inner child. But I failed to get into the playfulness of the inner child because I still see this inner child as the wounded version of myself. Like when, you know, I was first feeling that sense of pain and separateness, the shame that was that's where that's where I wanted to why I wanted to read those things. Um and I was instructed basically. I can't say instructed. Well, I'm going to go with instructed. Um, that I need to just shed it, shed the stories, shed the history. It's just, of course I can't erase my history. I can't erase what my experiences were, but they're in unnecessary going forth, and they only hold me back. So I have to divorce myself from the power that I give that narrative. And I have work to do in the next few days leading up to the new moon, which also happens to coincide with when the sun moves out of my 12th house into my first house for the you know the 12th house is a difficult house for the sun to be in, and this is just like for a month at a time. Obviously, goes through all of the houses, and I will be very happy when it goes into the first house so that I can move out of that ethereal, mysterious, and sometimes dark realm. Um, why was I sharing that? Oh, because I think the new moon is whatever you need to release. Um, the new moon is significant for that. So then we can receive these new lessons. Which leads to our Venus energy, the Three of Wands, because the Three of Wands, comes after the two, obviously, and the two is the decision that we make towards um, our betterment towards our evolutionary progress, and it's not the Two of Swords; it's the Two of Wands, which is very different. There's fire in that. We're not in our mental prisons. We are in more flow. So in letting go of all of that, the stories, and that is basically, part of that is, and I think I've talked about it recently, the Wu Wei Wisdom channel on YouTube. David and Alex, who run it, are always talking about this this kind of work. So if you want to look more into that, if you're having issues around trying to understand your own inner child work, I recommend that you explore that. But the Three of Wands can also imply a sense of expectation. So again, in letting go of that, our expectations change. Now, expectation is not always the enemy. I mean, there are certain things that if we can provide them ourselves, then expectation is perfectly healthy. But what we expect in matters, in Venusian matters. So our material comfort are the things that we love, the way that love manifests in our lives, the things of beauty, the experiential aspect of our lives. You know, by letting go of our narrative around our history, the painful narrative, the traumatized narrative, our expectations change. What we can receive changes, and so we're clarifying that with the Hermit. So there's this Venus energy in order to shift our expectations, in order to shift what we manifest in that part of our lives, and what we project we will manifest, which is necessary in order to manifest, is in requirement of the inner light. So it might take a little bit of some time with yourself and meditation to get some clarity on that. Our Mars energy doesn't surprise me at all. We have the Two of Pentacles. So Mars is keeping us entangled in this juggling act of um, two realities. The reality that the shit reality that is like all our shadow and our darkness and our dark nights of the soul and all the pain and all the suffering that the male side of us, like, in solidifies in 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 our manifestations, because it's the self-protection. um it's all, the ego of, like, don't fuck with me kind of thing. I try not to tell myself that I'm not going to swear when I'm doing these readings, but I mean, unfortunately, I am a person that swears. So um I hope you aren't offended when I decide to go with that. Um, Especially because it is Mars energy, so it makes sense that that would be where my mind would go. Um, Here we get it clarified by the Ace of Wands and the Tower. So I suppose these are the two things that we are juggling. It's like, do you see that fire as um, inspiration to drive things forward, to receive the newness of what is, you know, creative energy? Or do we have to go through the discomfort of it being torn down by external forces that then put a certain amount of chaos into our lives in order to then manifest um, essentially the same outcome? It's just how our heart receives it, right? Whether our heart is resistant or in flow. Our Mercury energy, we got two reversals, and they were very adamant in their reversal. Eight of Pentacles, Six of Pentacles. So Mercury being our communication networks, our way of expressing our inner self into the outer world, um, our frequency on many levels is hindered right now. Um, I feel like because of the this inner process leading up to the new moon that we need to, and I mean, I hate to put a ticking time bomb on you, but it is kind of essential right now that this work gets done, because I mean, of course, you're always going to have the opportunity to do it, but we want to take advantage of the planetary um, alignments, um, and the moon's um, movements in order uh, to have healthy conduits of support. So I think these will shift to being upright after the new moon. That's what I'm intuiting. And um, so whatever it is that you're working on that feels hindered has to do with the way that you communicate. Um, and because it came out with the Six of Pentacles, the Six of Pentacles is the balance of giving and receiving. It is being in divine alignment. It is, like the Temperance card in the Minor Arcana, and it is the very essence of flow. So if we find ourselves in the position where, because we're hurt, and we've been hurt, and so our whole life has been an accumulation of responses of Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about earlier when I went on into the Wu Wei wisdom thing. So this is all in flow. Thank you. Their focus is always on reminding ourselves no criticism, no judgment, no comparison. These are the three things that the inner child or the ego um, does in order to keep us stuck out of, you know, not evil. It thinks that it's protecting us. But of course, that's not the reality. So we have to shift our sense of balance in our communication, of receptivity and giving. There's something about our, I've noticed this a lot. I get very triggered by certain people in my life, and I don't really have a lot of people in my life at this stage um, of my life. And hopefully that will change as I change and my life changes. But it's just been a period where things have become very um, fallow. Is that the right word? I don't know why that's coming to my mind. Like I would never use that word, but I'm gonna sound really stupid right now. But I gotta look up fallow definition of a period of time characterized by inaction, unproductive. Well, yeah, I guess that's perfect. Um, I I know that my stories keep me from being able to trust because I can't, and to be receptive and to be open. I mask myself in a way that makes it seem as though I'm very open and very um, generous and receptive, but there's still a lot of uh, subconscious messaging that gets in the way of how I communicate. I find myself, I mean, I'm very lucky that I have a very small handful of people where I don't show up like that. I mean, I'm really talking like two or three people in my life, um, and they are really the people that have known me the longest. But elsewhere, no matter how honest I try to be, um, or how authentic I try to show up, there are all these subconscious uh, hierophant driven um, conforming um, behavioral structures that I am beholden to. So I think that's what this is. It's like, okay, you need to shift the dynamic because the mask is not authentic. And even though it's a close facsimile of authenticity, there's just a few things that need to be tweaked there that will actually shift this into forward motion, which is about receptivity, true receptivity, truly um, not giving to receive and not feeling that we have to give because we have received. It has to come from the heart, you know? And if we don't know what love is, we can't really do that. And I think we do know what love is, but we forget and we don't necessarily live in that frequency, right? So, um, where are we at? Jupiter. Woo, Jupiter, we got the tower. So again, what is growing? Where the energy of faith and wait, is this This isn't the deck I'm supposed to be using to clarify. Where have I put that? Oh, um, oh, you do want me to use that? Okay. Call me crazy. Oh, there it goes. Um, the Wheel of Fortune. Nice. Um, so that's changing, obviously, massively. This is huge. That's exactly what we want to see at the center of our reading. There is this massive shift in what can grow. I intuit that there's been all of the Jupiterian energy has been internal for quite some time, and there's been all this growth and expansion within us, inside of us. We've been doing all this work, and it's like, oh, but I'm like really pissed off with my life because I'm not seeing any of that externally. Well, this is the shift. Jupiter, the faith and the action to grow and to expand and evolve is, and it's also luck and ambition and drive, as well in many ways. I feel that there's fire being infused into that so that it externalizes. So I'm very happy that we have that there. Saturn. That I hate. I mean, I have this weird hybrid accent from living in the United States for almost 3 decades now. And I switch around all the time. Sometimes I speak as though I'm like the Queen of England, and other times, or I suppose I should say the King of England now, right? And sometimes I sound like I am from I wouldn't, well, just some weird generic American accent. Um, and more often than not, I find myself in this hybrid version. And so the word saying Saturn seems very unnatural to me because Saturn doesn't work either, right? So anyway, I know I'm digressing again into nonsense, but that's, I guess, my authenticity, right? Um, we have the Ten of Swords in reverse for Saturn, and when I pulled this, I kind of knew that I'd find myself in a dilemma here because I would have a hard time figuring out whether that was, well, I mean, obviously it speaks to there being, we're at the end of, uh, okay, a shift of, okay, this is what it is. It's a shift of perception of time within us. It's about age. It's about self-acceptance. It's about loving ourselves as we are. It's about getting rid of our restrictiveness around the idea of time. And we're stuck. We are stuck. Um, what is what has us stuck there? What is preventing us from growing up? What is preventing us from growing up? Growing up and growing into that Jupiter energy. Well, death. Obviously not literally, because there wouldn't be much use in that with the uh, fear. Fear is what I get. Fear of changing. There's that inner child is so attached to being afraid of something. I can't speak to what that is in your life. I know what it is in mine. I mean, it's a fear of failure. I mean, it's all shame based for me. It's like, you know, who's going to judge me harsher than myself? And that's how I'm hardwired, and time to snip those wires, because it is fucked up, um, how much I've held myself back in my life because of shame and because of fear. And I'm speaking of my own personal experience with that so that it gives you some notion of how that shapes in your life. But that's the message there. And I feel like because I don't know why. I mean, I selected it in this order because it came to me that way. So I would say that there's a evolutionary perspective there that we move through the Jupiter I mean, obviously it is the order of the planets. I'm not like claiming that I made that up. Um, Except for in the beginning, just because I wanted to put the moon there, next to the sun because it's their counterparts. Um, for us on Earth in any case. Um, hmm, yeah, the Jupiter energy is what shifts this. So I can't even remember what I just said about that, but you'll know because you'll be watching this and you'll have more context, and I'll have to go back and watch this so that I benefit from it myself. Um, where are we? Uranus. Uh, Two cards came out: Four of Swords and um, Page of Pentacles. So Uranus has been pretty busy, as you probably know. There was a Jupiter Uranus conjunction very recently that everyone claimed would be this, bring like this, you know, revolutionary but joyous kind of experience. And it has been revolutionary for sure. But as far as I can tell, it awoke in everyone a feeling of holy shit, I actually I'm still struggling and I can't struggle anymore. I need to figure out really quickly how not to struggle anymore because there's so much going on that is expensive, but it requires massive change. And sometimes when we go through massive change, we can go through some healing inducing crises. In other words, it can be health, mental, physical, whatever it may be for you. Um, I don't like to focus on that because I never, ever, ever would be a person that would speak of uh, ill physical health in a reading because I don't really feel that that's what we're here for. I mean, we know our own bodies, and or we don't, and that's completely has nothing to do with the planets um, or the tarot cards. But metaphysically, whether it be physical or mental, a healing crisis can come, can only come from a misalignment of divine masculine and divine feminine energy. So this is what the result is now, is that we are, you know, because it's Uranus, it's electricity, it is the flow of energy in our body, and it is things that are unexpected. And when I say unexpected, I mean that, we focus all our attention on, um, I fell when I was hiking like a few weeks ago, and I, tore up my leg, and it was pretty nasty. But I mean, it's healing. But that was this focus. It took me outside of my angst, and I had that focus, and I had to deal with being, a grown adult to my inner child that wanted to cry and be like, I hurt, kind of thing. But meanwhile, as I was healing physically, all this inner stuff um, came to the surface. And it was like another healing crisis. but one that perhaps the physical healing crisis provoked the ability to know that there was a requirement for patience, a requirement for um, acceptance, surrender, and so I'm saying that because the Page of Pentacles is a very slow new energy too. So um, this healing is something that we have to be patient with. So I know that we've just said that we have all this work that needs to be done in lining up to the new moon, but I guess what I would also add to that is, we plant the seeds at the new moon. We don't have to be at the graduation point. That would be impossible, right? But uh, if we set the intentions, and if we put the wheel in motion, that wheel of fortune that Jupiter is supporting right now, then we have that capacity for enormous growth. But that's what's being called upon us. And you might be feeling it. I've been feeling it. I felt a lot of, my body has felt electrified. It's felt like kind of like, oh, like what's happening to me? Why am I like, like all over the map? And like I'll feel good, and then I feel so hyper energetic, and then almost in a manic way, and then I feel, like yesterday in the middle of the afternoon, I suddenly had this horrible feeling. I thought I was getting sick because I just suddenly felt like really run down and tired, and I had to lie down. And uh, fortunately, I had this really long guided meditation that I've been wanting to do for a while that I'd never had the patience to do. And so I put that on, and I sort of was drifting in and out, but I think subconsciously it it was working. Um, and after that, after that was like 2 hours that I basically was out of commission. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to work out now. And then worked out for like an hour and a half and felt like I had tons of energy. It was it was mental. It was uh, that's Uranian energy, and it really is about calibration of frequency a lot of the time. It's like, I mean, I know that because I can descend into the pit of hell in terms of my frequency, even though I know and I can see the frequency of shame, blah, 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 anger, blah, 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 blah. And oh, we get to this place and then we can elevate into the higher ranges of frequencies. I know all of that, but um, doesn't mean that I'm great at manifesting it. So that's what we're learning. That's the Page of Pentacles there. So, sorry, I made this. This is long. I know. Maybe a two-parter for you, but whoever it's received by, I honor you because I know that this message is for you. So you won't be bored. You'll be enthralled by this message, and you will find yourself in it. That's what I have to tell myself, and not um, because why am I apologizing for doing something for the collective? It's a good thing, right? Okay. Neptune. Neptune's a tricky one, right? And Neptune has been conjuncting Pisces at 29 degrees, final um, degree of Pisces, and the final degree of the zodiac. Um, so pretty karmically intense there. And again, I take it that I mean, I get the strong sense that it is about what do we dream? What illusions do we cling on to that don't serve us? What lens do we see our life through? Um, I've become very, very disillusioned with entertainment, um, with marketing, obviously with social media. I mean, I couldn't give two hoots about that. It's just pathetic to me. Um, but yeah, like that's the Neptunian energy of this era, of our collective experience and where we stand on that. We got the Knight of Cups, um, which tells me that we're having something brought to us that reinvigorates our sense of that. It could be as simple as discovering films that that you make you reinvest in the beauty of the art of film or music or your own creativity. Um, but it's oh, hmm, okay. So we got the Eight of Cups and the King of Pentacles. So what are we walking away from here? We're okay, so what we're changing, what we're walking away from is the how we receive our own sense of worth through the mirrors. And I don't mean our friends or our lovers or our family or whatever. I mean the mirrors of the television, the our smartphones, social media, uh, films, any kind of well, you know what I mean. I don't need to go into the thing. Uh, yeah, we're walking away from, because these are mirrors to us in the same way that people are. So therefore, what we consume, what we are exposed to, is what defines us. And when you live a relatively solitary life like I do, obviously, those things can be hugely impactful. And that, yeah, it's time. If you're still on social media, it's time to, stop flitting away on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is that you waste your time on. Yeah, yeah. Go back to yeah, I'm getting a strong sense. Go back to the basics. Go back to like where your inspirations came from, because they were very simplistic. 20, 30, 40 years ago, we did not have masses of choice and we had to invest ourselves in seeking out things that made our heart beat faster or, whatever it is. Think about the frequency of what you are exposing yourself to and make it count. Make it count towards your own growth and expansion. I love these messages. They're just kind of coming through. They're not at all what I expected, but I'm kind of liking my reading style, this layout. So, of course, I didn't save the best for last because I will read one Osha card that I pulled for all of us to, over like the overseeing of this entire reading, kind of like the resolution. But um I did save Lilith for last, mostly because I'm not very nice about Lilith, Blackman Lilith. Um, she freaks me out because, um, well, because she's in Virgo now, and she was in, and her passage through Leo really like brought up a lot of weird stuff for me. And basically, it's fears. Our fears, our subconscious, and the sometimes it's just too much. And as I'm, as we learn to parent our inner child, we don't fear. So I'm getting better at that. So I included her here, um, as a goodwill gesture. And we got the Empress and the Nine of Wands. So, mm, it's hard because the implication is that we fear our own, um, abundance. Yeah, I'm getting that because our Osho Zen card is abundance. So we fear our own abundance. We fear it because, I don't know, why do we fear it? Let's get well, the Nine of Wands is that we feel that we have to constantly be in a battle to sustain abundance. So we have to, or that it's something that we can never get to because we're always in a fight, not a fight against anyone else, but against ourselves, that we're worn down, we're run down, we don't trust that there's enough, we don't trust the process. So, can we get a clarifier for this so that I can try to make sense and speak in ways that other people might understand? What is the clarifier here? Of course, there's no clarifiers coming. Hmm. Okay, well, I'm going to take that because it makes sense. The clarifier is the devil. So it's our codependencies, it's our dependencies in general. It's the power that we put outside of ourselves that makes us doubt our capacity for abundance. Um, what do we do when we? Okay, I'll give an example. So if I apply for a job and I don't receive any feedback, and I'm like, but I was perfect for that job. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to look for another job now because I'm um, afraid of feeling more rejection. That's my inner child running the show, right? That's my inner child um, going into that nine of wands energy and being like, like life sucks. And like, I'm never going to do anything. And I'm like screwed and blah, blah, blah. Rather than being like, well, that wasn't right for me. Onwards and upwards. In fact, I need to redefine what I'm looking for entirely because I don't think that I'm meant to be doing what I've been doing before in the past. And I trust, I have faith, Jupiter, all of this reading, that I will receive what I need. That was that saying that what's meant for us will never pass us by. That's faith. The devil is the antithesis of that. The devil kills faith, or at least um, maims faith for periods of time. And of course, over the course of time, eventually it leads to that. It leads to, it's a lot of ones that are telling us all the reasons why we're right to withdraw from faith. So those are our fears, just fears. Fear is not real. There's nothing to fear in life other than fear itself. So, note taken, Alex, because you certainly need to think that way. Okay, I'm going to read our Osho card of abundance because I need to let you get on with your lives and I need to get on with mine. So here we go, because I feel like it will tie all of this up. In the East, oh no, I'll start with the card description, the commentary. This Dionysian character is the very picture of a whole man, a Zorba the Buddha who can drink wine, dance on the beach, and sing in the rain, and at the same time enjoy the depths of understanding and wisdom that belong to the sage. In one hand, he holds a lotus, showing that he respects and contains within himself the grace of the feminine. His exposed chest and open heart and relaxed belly show that he is at home with his masculinity as well, utterly self-contained. The four elements of earth, fire, water, and sky all conjunct at the King of Rainbows, who sits atop the book of the wisdom of life. If you're a woman, I'm not reading that part because I don't believe in giving these binary kind of, not because, I'm not going into that, but just you're divine masculine feminine, so we don't need those types of things. But in the East, people have condemned the body, condemned matter, called matter illusory, Maya. It does not really exist. It only appears to exist. It is made of the same stuff as dreams are made of. They denied the world, and that is the reason for the East remaining poor, sick, and starvation. Half of humanity has been accepting the inner world but denying the outer world. The other half of humanity has been accepting the material world and denying the inner world. Both are half, and no man who is half can be contented. You have to be whole, rich in the body, rich in science, rich in meditation, rich in consciousness. Only a whole person is a holy person, according to me. I am Zorba and Buddha to meet together. Zorba alone is hollow. His dance has not an eternal significance. It is momentary pleasure. Soon he will be tired of it. Unless you have inexhaustible sources available to you from the cosmos itself, unless you become existential, you cannot become whole. This is my contribution to humanity, the whole person. So that ties it all up, right? And that is what it is. Like, stepping out of poverty consciousness as a spiritual person is also moving away from constructs that are so subconsciously built into us that we need to be pious, or we need to deprive ourselves, or that, if we are suffering, that's the essence of godliness playing through our lives, or whatever it may be. It's untrue. It's just a construct, and it's something that we need to let go of and eradicate once and for all, which goes along with the trauma and everything else that we've talked about. So I love you. I hope this resonates with you. I think that it's very powerful and timely. So I leave you with that.